Hi everybody, I'm Brienne Brown and I'm recording classes for Us to See Online. So you can do yoga without blocks, without straps, without blankets, but if you are a little bit tight or not very flexible in shoulders or hips area, it's a good idea to have a strap or something like that. Even a sweatshirt works. 2 blocks is helpful and a blanket is helpful. So try to get yourself set up with something like that, and then what we'll do is we will go ahead and get started. So this is going to be a class for the hips, trying to work through getting the hips to loosen up a little bit. And we're going to start standing at first, and then we're going to come down to the ground after that. So from here, first thing we want to do is get our breath and make sure that we are standing up really well. So the first thing you want to do is lift your toes up, spread them out, place them back down, and then grab the ground a little bit. So almost as if you're pulling the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet toward each other. You're going to feel your toes press into the ground. You're going to feel the arches of your feet lifting up. Once you're there, you want to squeeze your legs into the midline as if you're squeezing a block between your thighs, and that's going to help stabilize you in this posture called mountain pose. And then from here, we're going to go for a side stretch first. So we're going to take the arms up on the inhale, grab your hands, interlace them, put your first finger pointing straight up, and then squeeze your head. Once you're there, lift up nice and tall and stretch over to your right hand side. So as you're breathing here, make sure that you're breathing into the back of your rib cage and into the sides of your rib cage. Zip up your low belly a little bit like you're trying to put on a tight pair of pants. And then make sure you're breathing really deeply. So often when we do these postures where we're starting to move from posture to posture, we do Ujjayi breath. And Ujjayi breath is a little bit of a tightening of the glottis muscles, kind of sounds like Darth Vader. So you want to breathe deeply in through the nose, tighten up the throat, and exhale, breathing out with a little bit of tightness in the throat. Another way to think about this is if you're breathing, you want to be able to say ha, but with your mouth closed, or think of fogging up a mirror. Lift up on the inhale and then go to the other side. And again, nice deep breaths here, big inhales, big exhales. Breathe into the back of the rib cage and the sides of the rib cage. Then we're going to go a little bit deeper, get these oblique abdominals to stretch out a little bit more. So inhale, come up again and stretch over to your right. Bend your knees. You're going to ground yourself down into the ground, root down with the legs, and then cross your left leg behind your right leg and keep stretching to your right. Find that nice deep breath. Take about 5 breaths here. And then come back through the center and stretch over to your left. Root down, bend the knees a little bit so you can really ground down into the ground, and then cross your right leg behind your left and keep stretching to your left. Take about 2 more big breaths here. All right, come on up on the inhale and then release the arms, and then do a couple big shoulder rolls because you can have a little bit of tightness in the shoulders from that posture. All right, so from here we're going to go for Sun Salutation A. Take the arms up on the inhale and look up toward the thumbs. Exhale, fold and bend the knees. Inhale, stretch forward and look forward. And then notice how my back is nice and long and flat. I'm sticking my tailbone out and reaching my heart forward, and then zipping up my low belly a little bit. And then plant the hands, step back to a plank. So once you're in your plank, we're going to drop all the way down to our bellies for right now. Drop your knees, come all the way down. So this is a great way to do Sun Salutation A without making it really hard, but you're still getting all that stretch in the spine. Roll your shoulders onto your back, walk your hands back a little bit closer to your waist, squeeze your legs together, and you can hang out right here, so it's a little bit of a back bend, but if you want to make it a little bit more intense, you can lift your legs up and even lift your hands up a little bit. So this is going into what we call Shalabhasana, or the locust. And you want to make sure you're breathing deeply. Your belly is still zipping up. You're trying to roll your pubic bone toward the ground, and you're extending through your legs. All right, lower the legs, and then from here, little tiny push-up or reverse push-up, and you're going to push back to child's pose. So child's pose gets a really nice, long, stretched out back here. As you do this stretched out back, this is great. You can also go into down dog. So I'm going to show the variation where it's a little bit more with a push-up and with down dog as well. So come onto your hands and knees, flip your toes over, find a downward dog, roll your shoulders onto your back, relax your neck a little bit, make sure it feels nice and long, and look up. Inhale, step forward. Exhale, fold. Again, nice long back here. So if you're a little tighter in the hamstrings, you're going to be up here instead of down here. And then inhale, come up with a flat back. And exhale, arms to the sides. All right, full sun salutation A without the modifications. Take the arms up on the inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step back. Press forward. Lower down about halfway. Keep your chin up. And then onto the tops of the feet. Inhale, upward dog. And then exhale, downward dog. Take some nice deep breaths here. Zip up your low belly. Roll your shoulders onto your back. Take a few deep breaths. Again, if you ever get tired here, especially if your wrists are a little bit weak, child's pose is a great option. You can drop into child's pose anytime. Take about 2 more big breaths here. And look up. Inhale, step forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up with a flat back. And exhale, arms to sides. All right, we're going to do sun salutation B now. So big toes are together, heels are slightly apart. Same posture, it's just going to add a couple lunges in, which can be pretty difficult if you're not super flexible around the hips. So take the arms up on the inhale. Sit back into Utkatasana, chair pose or fierce pose. Drop your shoulders down your back. If you're really tight in the shoulders, your arms are going to separate, drop the shoulders down. If you're a little bit looser, try to get the palms of the hands together. And then I'm sticking my tailbone out and zipping up my low belly. And then my goal here is to get more of my back muscle to engage. So what I'm going to do is pull my arms back a little bit more in line with my ears. And if you feel this in your upper back and middle back, you're doing it right. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step back. Press forward, lower down. Tops the feet, inhale. Knees on the ground or off the ground. Exhale, downward dog. Left heel pivots and plants, right foot lunges forward. The problem is not everybody can lunge like this. So if you're having trouble and you're about here, grab your ankle, pull it forward, get that back heel down, and then come into warrior one. And then look up at your thumbs, drop your shoulders, maybe bring your hands together, maybe take the arms back in line with the ears a little bit more. Big breath. And big exhale. Take the hands down the ground. Step your right leg back. Press forward. Lower down. Inhale, up dog. Again, knees can be on or off the ground. Exhale, down dog. Left leg lunges. Drop that back heel. Take it up. Take a few breaths here. So this back foot here tends to collapse in. What you want to do is bring the weight into the outer edge of your back foot so that there's actually a little lift here in that inner arch. Last big breath. And big exhale. Take the hands down the ground. Step your left leg back. Press forward. Lower down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Big breaths here. Remember, child's pose is always an option. Think a little bit harder about how you're working your arms. You want to press down into this thumb and first finger on both hands, which internally rotates these forearms. And then you want to roll your armpits toward each other, which externally rotates these upper arms. And look up. Inhale, step forward, big toes touching. Exhale, fold. Sink into Utkatasana. Take the arms up and look up. And exhale, straighten the legs, arms to sides. Okay, so we're gonna do a little variation of this. You can keep doing sun salutations this way with one leg forward, or you can start adding in twists and other things. So just for fun, big toes together, heels slightly apart. Take the arms up on the inhale, sit back into Utkatasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step it back. Press forward, lower down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Right leg lunges. Take your time getting it up there. Inhale, take it up. And then we're going to add in a little bit of a shoulder opening. So you're going to interlace your fingers, press your fist down, open up your heart. And breathe deeply. So this front rib cage tends to flare open when you're in this back bend. You need to use your transverse abdominals to pull the rib cage in a little bit, almost like pulling the rib cage together and kind of tying it up. So pull the front ribs in, drop your shoulders, and then maybe a little bit more forward bend. So you can bring the shoulders somewhere near the right knee, possibly to the inside of the right knee if you're a little bit more flexible. Big breaths, don't forget to breathe. All right, bring the hands down to the ground. And we're gonna do a side plank. So you're gonna walk your right foot off the mat to about 3 o'clock, come to the pinky edge of your left foot, and then you're gonna take your right arm toward the sky. And then you're pushing down really hard through that right foot, so you're nice and anchored through here. And then a really fun thing to do is to get a little bit more of a back bend here. So you can bring your right hand to the back of your head and push your head back into your right hand. And that gives you a big stretch through here, little back bend here. And you should be feeling a little warm right now. Maybe not sweaty yet, but a little bit warm. All right, take the right hand back down the ground. Step your right leg back, press forward, lower down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Other side, lunge the left leg forward. Take it up on the inhale. All right, once you're here, again, press into the outer edge of that back foot. Try to lift your hip points up. So your hip points, your tailbone tends to stick out a little bit here, and you tend to kind of sink forward. So you kind of want to get those hips up a little bit more. Lift those hip points up. And then interlace your fingers behind your back, but go for the non-dominant grip. So put the other thumb and first finger on top. And then it's going to feel like you're holding somebody else's hand. Drop the shoulders, look up. Same thing here, hips are flaring or ribs are flaring forward. Pull those front ribs in. And then forward bend. So again, if you're really tight in the shoulders, your fist may be down here and not off your back, and that is okay. All right, side plank. Right hand comes down below your right shoulder, claw the ground a little bit, walk your left foot off the mat to about 9 o'clock, come to the pinky edge of your right foot, take your left arm toward the sky. So a little hip opener. For some, it's a big hip opener. And then you're gonna take your left hand to the back of your head and push your head back. So you're getting a little bit of a back bend, a little bit more stretch in your oblique abdominals. All right, left hand back down to the ground, press forward, lower down, inhale, up dog, exhale, down dog. And walk it out. If you need a little break, child's pose. Take a couple of deep breaths here. So the next thing we're gonna do is turn this from warrior 1 to warrior 2 and get a little exalted warrior. So we're just gonna do a vinyasa, which means connecting postures together. So from here, look up, inhale, step forward. Exhale, fold. Big toes together. Sink into Utkatasana, take the arms up. Exhale, straighten the legs, arms the sides. Okay, so I'm gonna turn around here so you can see how that lunge works. So big toes together, heels slightly apart. Take the arms up on the inhale, sink back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step back. Press forward, lower down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Left heel plants, right foot lunges. Warrior 1 on the inhale. And then we're going to open up to warrior 2. So the thing about warrior 2 is it's a bit of an awkward transition. You need to take a moment and just check your foot. So your right foot, if you drew a line through it and continue with that line, it should bisect the heel or arch of your back foot. The other thing that tends to happen here is your front knee tends to roll in. So you want your front knee to line up with your middle 3 toes. Make sure that it's not too far in front of the ankle, and make sure it's not rolling in toward the big toe. So once you've got a pretty good handle on that, drop your shoulders. Look straight down your middle right finger. Take a few deep breaths here. Also, if you've got knee issues, a little farther back is okay. You just don't want to go forward past the ankle. Turn the palm of the right hand up toward the sky and bring that left hand to the left leg, left thigh, left calf, whatever. Take that right arm up toward the sky, zip up your low belly. What tends to happen here is this front leg starts slowly straightening up when you're in this posture. So be really aware of that front leg. Make sure it stays nice and bent. And you should be able to take this left hand off of your leg anytime. All right, come back through on the inhale. Exhale, forearm to the thigh. Left arm is going to stretch over. So this is a pretty good place to hang out here. Lots going on. However, some people are a little bit more flexible and want to go a little bit deeper. So if that's the case, you can also use a block, but you can bring your hand to the ground or to the block, to the inside of your right foot. Zip up the low belly and then gently twist your rib cage toward the sky. All right, we're going to come back up. So inhale, straighten up. Turn your right toes forward. So the outer edges of your feet are parallel to the short edges of your mat. And then bring your hands to your hips. Lift your heart on the inhale. Exhale, forward bend. Most people are pretty tight in the hamstrings, so this is about as far as a lot of people go, which is great. You keep your hands on your hips, squeeze your elbows toward the sky. If you're a little bit more flexible, you can start experimenting with taking your hands down the leg and maybe grabbing your big toes at some point. Whatever works for you. Just make sure your spine is nice and long here. And then in this posture, you may notice that your weight is sort of going into the outer edges of your ankles, which at some point is going to make your ankles really sad. So you want to press down into your inner heels and make sure there's weight on the inner heel as well as the outer heel here. You also want to bring some weight into your front heel so that you're not sinking into the back of your heels. So 3 corners of your feet, outer, inner, and front heel. And then bend the knees, inhale, come on up, and toe heel in, and then step up to the front of your mat. Let's go for the other side. Big toes together. Take the arms up on the inhale, sit back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step back. Press forward, lower down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Right heel pivots and plants. Left foot lunges forward. Take it up. So you're pressing into the outer edge of that back foot again, tacking your left hip back a little bit. Try to get your left knee lined up over that middle 3-toe area. And then you're going to open up for warrior 2. And then again, you may have to readjust your feet. Make sure that foot lines up with the heel or arch of your back foot. Nice big breaths here. Check this front knee, tends to roll in. Make sure that left knee is lining up with your middle 3 toes, which means you're slightly pulling this left hip back a tiny bit. And then turn the palm of the hand toward the sky, exalted warrior. Again, this right leg is actually lifting up to meet my hand, so I'm not pushing down really hard here. And this left leg loves to straighten, so I want to make sure I'm still bent. And then inhale, come on up. Bring that left forearm to the left thigh. Turn the right thumb down. And then from here, you're going to bring the arm in and then extend it. So sometimes if you just do this, your rotator cuff of your shoulder isn't too happy with you, so it's really nice to kind of pull the arm in and extend. And then again, you can go a little deeper if you want to. All right, and then come on up to warrior 2, straighten up with the front leg. All right, normally you'd go forward, change up your arms, maybe clasp the hands together. If you're going to do that, I would definitely clasp the hands together on the other side as well. So let's do a couple rounds of that. So from here, clasp your hands together. Try to get the heels of your hands together, which may require that you bend your elbows a little bit. So from here, lift your heart, exhale, forward bend. All right, bend the knees, inhale, come on up. Let's go for the other side. So take the arms out again, clasp the hands the other direction, stretch your fists down, lift your heart up, pull your front ribs in, zip up your belly, and then exhale, forward bend. Press into the inner heels. Make sure you have some weight in your front heels. All right, bend the knees, inhale, come on up. Bring your hands to your hips and then toe heel in. And then step up to the front of your mat. All right, so that's the warm-up right there. And you can always take little child's poses in between. So next thing I want to do is warrior sun salutation 3, which is more of the sagittal plane, forward and backward. So it's quadriceps and hamstrings and the hip parts that have to do with that. A lot of psoas. So take the arms up on the inhale, look up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step your left leg back and drop your back knee. Little back bend. So I'm dragging my left knee and my right heel toward each other on the mat, and I'm dropping my shoulders, looking up toward the thumbs. So again, arms can be separated. If you're a little bit looser in the shoulders, palms together. Exhale, hands down to the ground. Step back and lift your left leg toward the sky. So most important here is not how high the leg goes, but how squared up it is. You're trying to lift with your inner left thigh, pull your left pinky toe toward your face, and you're reaching through your inner heel. And then once you get that nice length through the left leg, then you're actually working on your right leg as well. So you're pressing your right heel down and lifting your right hip crease up and zipping up your low belly. And then we'll lunge it forward on the exhale. Drop your back knee. Take the arms up on the inhale. Exhale, hands down to the ground. Step your right leg forward. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Inhale, come up with a flat back. And we're going to the other side. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step your right leg back. Drop your back knee. Take the arms up on the inhale. Exhale, hands to the ground. Step back. Lift your right leg toward the sky. Same thing here. Roll the inner right thigh toward the sky. Pull your right pinky toe toward your face. Reach out through your inner right heel and then start working on that left leg. See if you can drop your left heel a little bit and lift your left hip crease a little bit. Zip up the belly. Relax your neck. Lunge that right leg forward on the exhale. Drop it down. Take the arms up on the inhale. Exhale, hands to the ground. And step your left leg forward. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Inhale, come on up. And exhale, arms to the sides. Okay, so this next one we're going to break down a little bit because it's that same lunging action, but we're going to add in some twists. So, and you might even flip it over into a back bend. So take your feet about hips distance apart. Take the arms up on the inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step your left leg back. Drop your back knee. All right, so big twist. Take your left arm up and stretch over to your right hand side. And your right hand can just kind of dangle here. If you want to make this a little bit more intense, you can take your right hand and reach it down and try to touch the ground. Also, if you have your blocks nearby, you can use a block. So block here, push down. Now you get a little bit of resistance there. All right, so from here, we're going to go for the twist. Use this side stretch and then incorporate it into your twist. Take that left elbow or left arm to the outside of your right leg, and then bring your hands together in prayer position. And you can stay right here, lengthen your tailbone back and your heart forward. If you're feeling a little bit more loose in this outer right hip, then you can lift that back knee up. And then if you're here, your belly can touch your thigh, but it shouldn't be resting. You should be doing a little bit of a lift there. All right, exhale, hands down to the ground. Step back. Lift your left leg toward the sky. Open up the hip and bend the knee. So I call this dog at a fire hydrant. So you're going to pull that left heel toward your right hip. Lift your left knee up. If you want to try to flip your dog into a back bend, lift your right heel up high. Pivot your toes to the left. Bend your right leg a little bit, and then let that left leg come over. And then there's your back bend. Some people like to go into a full back bend. Most people don't. You decide. So once we're here, it's actually kind of harder to get out of the back bend. So take a moment, and when you're ready, start twisting back to the right. And then you got to get some more weight into your right leg, get your left leg up, and then extend it, bring it forward. So here we are. And then from here, let's go for a little bit of a shoulder open here. Stretch your fist down, open up your heart. Bring your hands down the ground, step your right leg forward. Big inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, arms to sides. All right, you should be a little bit sweaty right now. So from here, we're gonna go for the other side. Take the arms up on the inhale, look up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stretch forward. Exhale, step your right leg back. Drop your back knee. All right, with or without block. Take that right arm up and over and stretch over to your left-hand side. And then your drishti, or your focal point, is meant to keep your attention within your space. It also helps to keep a nice neutral curve in your neck. So you're looking up. Your drishti is the middle of the tip of your finger, like your middle finger there. Don't forget to breathe. And then we're gonna get this nice side stretch and turn it into a twist. So keep stretching to the left, but then twist and take that right arm to the outside of the left leg. Wherever you are is fine. It can be elbow or arm near the shoulder. Lift your rib cage up, twist it around a little bit more, and then bring your hands together. And then this is great. So if you are here and you're struggling because of this hip, stick with this. If you feel like you need to get a little bit more into the hip, then lengthen the spine, and then you're gonna lift that back knee up, which is a bigger hip stretch down the IT band. So keep breathing, look over that left shoulder. Anytime you go into a twist, you kind of forget to breathe. So try to keep that breath strong. And then take the hands down the ground. Step back, lift your right leg toward the sky, open up the hip and bend the knee. And then we're gonna try to flip our dog. So lift your left heel up high, turn your toes, bend your left leg, bring that right leg over, reach. Another fun way to do this is not just reaching, but you can bring your hand to the back of your head and push your head back into your hands to get a little bit more of a back bend. So these are all fun things to experiment with. And then let's flip it back over again. Lunge it forward, drop your back knee down, and then go for another shoulder opener, but put the other thumb and first finger on top. Go for your non-dominant grip. All right, and then bring your hands to the ground, lift your back knee up, step your left leg forward, reach your heart forward, exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up, and exhale, arms to the sides. All right, so at this point, often people come to the ground. We're gonna do a couple of standing poses, which are really good for ankle strength and hip strength. So one that's really nice, and it's really seems kind of simplistic, but it's really good, is stepping on your block. So if you already know that you have weak ankles and that balancing on one leg is pretty tough, don't worry about the block, just hang out on the ground. We're gonna do tree first. So tree, your foot goes to your thigh in a perfect world. However, if you're not quite that flexible or your ankle's a little wobbly, your foot can come down to your calf or even down to the ground. So this is your tree. And then I'll show from the front as well. And then you can go up a little higher. What I don't want is foot on your knee. It kind of just puts a little bit too much pressure there. So, and then for those of you who are a little bit more strong and balanced, you're gonna step on your block to do this. So it just creates a little bit more instability and makes your ankle work a little harder to balance you. So you step on your block and then see if you can bring your foot to your calf, ankle, thigh. Again, remember you don't need the block. And then my ankle is wiggling like crazy, but that's okay. I'm just kind of working through with the different muscles, trying to figure out how to balance here. So big inhales, big exhales. Find a spot about 5 feet in front of you to focus on. If you want to play with your arms a little bit, you can take the arms up toward the sky. And some people love to challenge themselves even more and look up toward the thumbs. That's your drishti up here. So you can hang out there. So hang out as long as you can. If you're doing this on your own, I would say 20 breaths. That's about a minute. So come off that and let's go for the other side. So block or no block, your choice. And then you're going to put your right foot down, bring your left foot to your ankle or calf, or avoid the knee joint and come up a little bit higher. And then bring your hands into your heart center. And as you're working on this, ankle's going to be going a little crazy, trying to figure out how to balance you. But you want to keep pushing your leg, your right leg and your left foot into each other. And then as you're pushing them into each other, try to stretch that left knee out to the side a little bit. Keep breathing. Maybe you want to take the arms up. It does give you a lot more length through the spine. And this is just something to play with because most of us are actually not terribly strong on these outer gluteus medius and minimus hip muscles. So as you're here trying to figure those out, that's one of the reasons why this can be a really difficult posture. All right, bring the hands back into your heart center. Go ahead and come off. Okay, so the next one that I love, this is a standing pigeon. We do pigeons on the ground as well, but the standing pigeon creates a little bit more heat in the body, and you have to work on that ankle strengthening a little bit more. So you're going to spread the toes out on your left foot, make a little shelf with your left thigh, and cross your right ankle on top. So the really important thing here is pulling the pinky toe back and trying to make sure this ankle is straight. If your ankle is curling, there's a really good chance you're going to kind of overstretch this area of the ACL, and it doesn't tend to overstretch the tendon as much as the nerves within the tendon. Over time, it can feel like you're overstretched on this side and not feel good. So you want to make sure your ankles are really pulled back. You can also point, but I find that pulling the pinky toe back really gives you a nice anchor right there. So point or flex, just make sure you've got a nice straight ankle here. And then bring your hands to your hips and then kind of stick your butt out a little bit. So once you're here, zip up your belly, breathe deeply. Everybody has a differing amount of flexibility in this hip. This is a pretty tight area for most people. So if you are tight here, you're going to stay high. If you're not so tight, you're going to use your blocks. Put your blocks on the ground and hang out here. If you are pretty flexible here, then you can bring your hands to the ground. So you've got options, right? And the more you bend your knee, the more you're going to get into this outer IT band and outer glutes. So you're going to hang out there for a bit. Again, up high is fine. Take some nice big breaths. Your left leg is working really hard. So your right hip is getting flexible and stretching, but your left leg is stabilizing you, and that's why these one-legged postures are really important. So from here, let's go for the other side. You're going to spread your toes out on your right foot, make a little bend, a little shelf here in your right leg, cross your left ankle on top, flex your toes back, and then see where you go. Left hip tends to be tighter. So if you don't have any major hip injuries, if you're a right-hander, your left hip is tighter. So just check in with that, see how that feels. I often just put some more time into my left hip because it's a little bit tighter. Zip up the low belly, pull those toes back, make sure the ankle's straight. Stick your tailbone out. Try to get your spine long. Big breaths. These butt muscles, these glute muscles really need oxygen, so you want to make sure you're breathing pretty deeply. And take about 4 or 5 more big breaths here. If you find that you're getting a little bit looser, you can put this left foot and press it into the inside of your arm. So there's a little bit of resistance there, just like in tree when you're pressing your leg and your foot into each other. All right, and then come on out of that one. Okay, let's do a couple more standing poses just because they can be pretty tough and it's worth working on them. Let's do one more. So this next one is, we're going to do dancer pose. So it works on the quads a little bit, and then you're going to spread your toes out on your left foot and grab the top of your right foot. So a lot of people cannot grab their foot. This is totally normal. Not all of us have like the loosest thighs in the world. So if you're here and you can barely touch, or if you can't grab at all, this is where your strap comes in really handy. So you essentially extend your arm and hang out here. And if you've had like knee replacements or anything going on with like knee surgery, then your shin, see how my shin is now parallel to the ground? That's great. So you don't have to get your foot to your hips. But what's important is that your knee is pressing down. When your knee stretches down, you get this quad stretch here. So whether or not you're grabbing with a strap or whether you're grabbing with a foot, stretch your knee down. That also is going to help pull the leg bone into the back of the hip socket, so you're not overstretching your psoas. So this is a great place to hang out. And if you feel like it's starting to become a little easy and your quads are starting to loosen up, then you can go into the dancer pose, Natarajanasana. So you're going to take your left arm up, stretch your knee toward the ground. This is really important working on your core here. You want to pull your front ribs in, zip up your low belly. You might even want to drop your tailbone toward the ground a little bit. And then you're going to grab your foot from the inside and then push your right foot into your right hand and come up a little higher. So depending on the discipline of yoga, in Bikram yoga, you'll notice everything opens up and they try to get everything to line up. A lot of the other variations of Hatha yoga, they're trying to get you to bring your right rib cage forward. And one of those reasons is that someday you're supposed to grab your foot behind your head, right? So you want to make sure you're nice and squared up. So let's try the other side. All right, so spread your toes out on your right foot. Grab the top of your left foot. Stretch down. Use your strap if you need it. That knee stretching down is the most important part. Zip up your belly, pull your front ribs in. Take your right arm toward the sky. Breathe deeply. Those big breaths are going to loosen up those quads a little bit. And then, if you want to go a little bit deeper into a little bit more of a back bend, grab the foot from the inside and push that foot into the hand and hang out. And then you can make some little adjustments here. Try to pull your left rib cage forward a little bit. Zip up that belly a little bit more. Big inhales, big exhales. Remember, I have been doing this for 25 years. If you're down here, this is okay. So come on out of it, and then we're going to come to the ground. So from here, we're going to come into a squat first. 2/3 of the world sits in a squat. They eat dinner in squats. They don't sit in chairs. Most of us should be able to do this, but most Westerners, because we sit in chairs, have a lot harder time here. So you can turn your toes out, turn your toes in. If you have some knee issues, you can sit on a block or 2 or 3 and come up a little bit higher. Some of us have really bad knees, and this is your squat, and that's okay. So wherever you are is fine. But I like to practice a little bit with arm balances, mostly just get the hands a little stronger. So you may not come into a full arm balance, and you may not actually get your weight onto your hands so much, but just getting some weight bearing into your fingers is important. So what we're going to do is claw the ground like a lion, and you're going to claw the mat really firmly. Use your fingers, that way your wrists don't take it all. And then you're going to lift your hips up. So if you're tight, you're going to take your legs from the outside and squeeze in. I'm squeezing out with my arms, squeezing in with my legs, lifting my chin, zipping my belly up. Maybe I just kind of play with it and take a foot up. Maybe the other one. Maybe you're like, are you kidding me? That's not going to happen. And this is fine too, just kind of leaning forward and getting some weight into the hands. The other variation of this posture is making a shelf, putting your shins on the backs of your arms, keeping your chin up so you don't do a face plant, zipping your low belly up, and then maybe playing with this. Another variation is to get your hips up a little higher and try it that way. So play with that. When I was first learning how to do this, I had a bunch of pillows in front of me, just in case. So that way if I did a face plant, I did a face plant and pillows. But the more you lift your chin, the less you'll face plant. So coming out of this, we're going to do the same posture, but we're going to do it on our backs. So it's basically what you're trying to do is figure out where your core is in this posture. When you're doing it forward, it's all about the hands and fingers. You get kind of freaked out. So we're on our back, and what we're going to do is we're going to pretend we're doing an arm balance on the sky, and you're going to try to pull your knees in, which is easier said than done. And then you're going to try to get your knees even closer to your armpits. So as you do that, pretend you've got like a marker attached to your kneecaps, and you try to draw a line down your arms and just see what happens. See if you can pull down. And at some point, you're going to feel like your core, your belly, is doing a lot of work. And then if this is pretty comfortable and you feel like you're doing a pretty good job, try to put your big toes together. And then just keep clawing the ground. So this is the same posture, upside down, lots of core. All right, so come out of that one, and now we're going to do a couple different variations of pigeon. So we did pigeon standing up. This is a really good one if you have knee issues. So you're essentially hanging out here, and then you're flexing your toes back. And if you want to get that knee out a little bit more to the side, push from your thigh here, don't push from the knee. So you're going to hang out here. This is great if you're super, super tight. If you are not super tight, but you still have knee issues, lying all the way on your back and pulling your leg in is fantastic. And then this is the more orthodox, old school variation. This is one too. So you lunge your right leg forward, cross it over. If you are in, so this is a good way to look at this. Notice how my shin is parallel to the front of the mat here. This is very advanced. So if you've got a really tight hip, your foot is going to slide back towards your hip more. Your knee's pretty much going to keep pointing out to about 2 o'clock, but you're just going to move that foot back so that I'm on the top of my foot. So either way, figure out what works, but don't try to overdo it. Hang out here. So big inhales, big exhales. Breathe deeply. Zip up your belly. Tighten up this left leg. If you're on the other side, we're on your back. Still, you want to resist with that left leg as you pull. Big inhales and big exhales. All right, we're going to add in a twist so we can get into this outer hip again. So you notice we keep coming back to this outer hip. So left forearm, right hand out to the side, lengthen and twist and look over your right shoulder. If you are really flexible and you feel like nothing's happening for you here, you can put your head on a block and get your left shoulder to the ground, and you can kind of come into this posture. So this is an option, but it's a little bit more advanced. It's only if you're feeling pretty loose right here. So big inhales, big exhales. If you're on your back, then you're doing the same thing, same twist. So here you are on your back, you're grabbing, and then you're going to do your twist. So you're going to drop your right foot over to the left side. Great twist. However, if you don't feel like you're getting enough in this hip, you can squeeze your inner thighs together more, and this is eagle legs. You can see if you can get your right foot close to your thigh and see if you can go over to a twist that way. So that's an option as well. The only thing that I worry about in this posture is there's a tendency to kind of tuck your butt under and overstretch your QL muscle in your low back. So if you're doing this, make sure you stick your tailbone out so that you have a nice long low back. All right, so second side. Left leg in front or left leg over. You can lie on your back or you can come forward and you're going to hang out here. Same thing, left knee points to about 10 o'clock. And then something I didn't show on the other side, but was really nice, you can use your block and place it under your forehead. And it puts pressure on your pituitary gland, which actually calms you down a little bit. So it feels pretty good to just rest your forehead on that block. All right, remember that tailbone. So if you're on your front side, you're rolling your tailbone toward the sky. If you're on your back side, you're rolling your tailbone toward the ground. And then you may want to go into a little bit more of a twist. So you can bring your right forearm in front, left arm out to the side. If you're on your back, you're going to drop your legs over to the right. Look over that left shoulder. If you want to go a little deeper, if you're on your back, put your legs together. If you're on your front, you can bring your right shoulder to the ground. So we're just adding a little bit more twist. These oblique abdominals in the twist, they connect from the back of the hip to the front of the rib cage and the front of the hip to the back of the rib cage. So that's what we're going for, is you get that more of that hip in there as you start working some of those side muscles. All right, come on out of it. So you can do a happy baby dead bug. I'll show that in a second, or a down dog. So down dog is walking it out. If you're on your back, happy baby dead bug is grabbing your toes and kind of rocking from side to side. That's super helpful. I'm not very good at this because I got a little thingy stuck to my back here. But the next thing we're going to do is, once you get a little bit of relaxation there with your happy baby or your down dog, is you're going to have to get seated again. So this one I'm going to show from the front. So from here, we're doing double pigeon. Double pigeon is really hard to do for most people. So I'm going to mirror you. You're going to put your left leg under and your right leg over. And then you're going to have your legs like this. So this is a perfect world. My shins are lined up right on top of each other, but I've been doing this for years. So most people are pretty tight here, and you'll have like one knee popped up, or some people can't even get their foot here in the first place. If that's the case, you're going to put your block in front and put your foot there. You can also help this out a little bit by sliding your bottom foot in. So you kind of have to play with it. As long as you feel it right here in your outer hips, you're golden. So it doesn't matter what it looks like, it just matters where you feel it. So Foot on top or not. A lot of things that I see sometimes for people who have hips that open up relatively well is that their feet are kind of on the inside here and their ankles are curling in. So you're not quite getting the hip opener that you need, and you're compensating with your ankle, which means your knee's getting a little stressed out. So really pay attention to the shin bone here. Your feet should be able to be free. So it's actually shin bone to thigh rather than foot to thigh. Once you're here, wherever here is, you're going to press the hands into the bottoms of the feet, sit up tall, and for a lot of people who are tight in the low back and hips, this is your forward bend. So you're going to hang out here, forward bend. If there's a little bit of flexibility here, you're going to try to go forward and hinge at the hips, but don't feel like you have to do that yet. Easily 50% of the population, this is their forward bend. So you're hanging out, breathe deeply, sitting up or slightly forward bended. Keep pressing your hands and your feet into each other. That's going to isolate some of that stretch in your outer hips a little bit more. This is one of those postures that if this is really hard for you, I recommend doing this like every day. So both sides, of course, but it's one of those things that maybe if you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, this is what you should be doing. All right, come on out of it. We're going to go for the other side. So switch legs, crossover. And then same thing, you may find that this hip is a lot tighter. So if that's the case, foot goes on the block, or you can slide this other bottom foot in closer to your hip. If the knee's popping up, don't worry about it. Don't try to force it down. And then you're going to flex, press the big toe ball joints out, press in with your hands, sit up nice and tall. If there's a little bit of forward bend available, go for it. Nice deep breaths. All right, come on out of this one. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is cow face. And cow face can be, again, it's a tough posture. So I'm going to make this look really easy, but there are a couple different ways to get into it that work. So you can start on hands and knees, and you can bring your left leg behind your right leg, and then swing your feet out, and then walk yourself back. So you're trying to roughly stack your knees over each other, roughly. And it doesn't really matter which knee you've got on top right now, so whichever one is there, don't worry about your right and left so much. But the knee that's on top, you're gonna go that way first, the direction that that top foot is pointing. So knees are roughly stacked. Again, I'm making this look pretty easy. Some people are kind of here, and that's okay. So you're gonna go for the side where you have a hip that's not pinned down. So top leg, go that way, bring your hand down to the ground, take your right arm up and look up towards your thumb. This might be fine. And if you feel pretty comfortable here, you have some options. You can use your block and bring your forearm down to your block. If you're feeling pretty flexible, you can bring your forearm down to the ground. This is the easy side. So nice big breaths, looking up towards your toes, up towards your fingers. And then you're getting a little bit of a stretch in your side, a little tiny bit in your hips. The big stretch is on the other side. So come on up, and then you're going to take your right hand to the ground, left arm up. And this is where you're pinning down that bottom hip, and it's going to be a little bit tougher. So reach, and you're going to find that huge side stretch all the way through the hip, all the way through the sides. Look up toward the thumb so that you're getting a nice neutral curve in your neck. If it's feasible, you can bring your forearm down to a block or forearm down to the ground and get a little bit extra stretch here. So we're trying to come at the hips from a lot of different directions since it's a pretty complicated area. There's a lot of layers there. All right, and then come on up. You're going to keep your legs the same. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of different variations for arms here. If you want to try grabbing your hands behind your back, I make this look really easy. You're going to take your left hand up and over, try to get that arm behind your head, and then try to hold it there. You're going to take your right arm, thumb down, bring the back of the hand around, and then you're going to try to grab your hands behind your back, right? So eventually, forward bend, chin up, but that's really tough. So some people do this variation where they put their strap in their left hand, and then you can grab a strap to kind of take care of some of that extra distance and go there. It's still a huge shoulder opener. Some people are so tight in the shoulder that's actually just worth it to just do one arm at a time. So one arm at a time, you're going to take your left thumb, your left arm out to the side, thumb down, bring the hand around all the way to the side, and then you're going to clasp your hand together and make a fist here, and that's going to open up this left shoulder, and then you can do a forward bend that way. So lots of options for the shoulders depending on how tight you are. And then don't forget to breathe. All right, let's go for the other side. So what we're going to do is go for the other side. So again, you can come onto your hands and knees first. If hands and knees works really well and you want that tight squeeze between the legs, do that. Otherwise, just put your other leg on top. So same thing here, one leg behind the other, come down, whatever works. And then from here, we'll go for the arms. So you're in this position, and again, make sure that your top leg is the direction you're going. So if your left leg is on top, you're going to the right. So you're going to bring your right hand down to your block or the ground, take your left arm up and stretch, and drop your right elbow as necessary. Don't forget to breathe. Look up toward your left finger so you have a nice neutral curve in your neck and you're not putting extra stress into your neck and shoulders. Big breaths. All right, and then come on up and we're going to go for the other side. So again, block could be helpful. You're going to take your other arm over, maybe drop your elbow. That's not super easy. All right, come on up, and then you're going to do the arms. So whatever leg is on top, that opposite arm is going to be up high. So again, you can go for one arm over, use your strap if you want to, grab the other fingers with your left hand or grab your strap. And again, if you're like, I don't know about that, I'm really tight in the shoulders, take that top arm around and clasp your hands so you've got a fist on one side, and then you can go for a forward bend that way. So whatever works. Just make sure you feel like you're doing something with your shoulders. All right, come on up out of that one, release, and let's do a little bit of core. So this next posture, we're going to take our blocks, put a block on either side, and we're going to work a little bit on belly and back strength. So your block is on either side. What you're going to be trying to do is your scapula moves up and down. You're trying to use some of that shoulder rotator cuff motion, which we usually underutilize a lot. We're kind of up here a lot. So what you want to do is just kind of push down, see if you can get your hips off the ground, get your shoulders down your back, test it out a little bit. And then once you feel like you've got that up and down action, we're going to go for the boat. So we're going to do 5 of these. You're going to grab the backs of your thighs. This is a really good beginner way to do this with bent legs and grabbing your thighs, and this is a good way to cheat as well. The other option is bringing your fingers back behind you. The goal is you don't want to collapse here in their chest. So you're trying to get your chest up and try to get your back nice and long. So fingers back behind you is a great idea. Then, if you really want to challenge yourself more, you go for straight legs. So 5 deep breaths, wherever you are. And your drishti, or your focal point, would be your toes. All right, now cross your ankles. Try to keep your ankles off the ground. Do your best. And then you're going to do that push up and down with the blocks. So you're going to lean forward, keep your feet off the ground. Try to keep your knees up in your chest, and then push and see if you can get your hips up off the ground. So that's little number 1. We're going to try to do 5 of these. Number 2. And cross and lift. And number 3. And cross and lift. And number 4. And cross and lift. And number 5. 5 is always hard. And last cross and lift. And come on out of it. Okay, beautiful. So, all right, so we did a bunch of hip stuff. We're gonna do a little bit more because we didn't do any like inner thigh groin area. We did a lot of the outer hip, which tends to be super hard to do. But inner thigh groin is not a piece of cake either. So there are a couple different ways to do this. You can take your legs out. I'm going to show a couple different variations of this. We're just going to do this one and then the next one. The reason why is because a lot of people are tight through the hips and that low back area. Often you'll see somebody, even in this position, sinking down, like in that low back collapsing. And I often put a lot of my students up against the wall so that it kind of forces them to sit up a little bit taller. So if you're one of those people, you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of sinking back and my toes are turning backwards, that's a pretty good indicator that maybe you want to get up against a wall or like your couch or something and just get yourself to sit up a little bit more, roll some of your weight forward onto your sits bones. So this is an option here, legs out, though it can be really, really tough to do if you have tight hips and a tight low back. So if this becomes an issue and you're really just struggling and really unhappy about this, you can always put one foot into your groin as you do your forward bends. You'll still get a stretch, but you'll be doing one leg at a time. So we'll do 2 variations of this or 2 sets of this. That way if you decide you want to put a foot in and then change feet out, you can do that. So you're sitting up nice and tall, hopefully, and sitting up against a couch or against you know, a wall if you're not able to keep your spine up. And then you're going to kind of walk yourself forward. So the most important thing here is I'm really flexible. I've been doing this for years, but most people aren't. And what you really want to do is make sure you're tightening up the tops of your thighs and your thigh bones, your thigh muscles are actually pushing your thigh bones toward the ground. Your kneecap should be pointing up and your toenails should be pointing, everything should be pointing up. If you see things turning in or turning out, there's a really good chance that you're kind of collapsing a little bit in that low back. So for a lot of my students, we just do this, place your hands on blocks and lift your chest. The goal is to get the spine really long. As you're tightening up your thighs and as you're breathing, there is a good chance that your breath will help you get a little bit more flexibility. So you may end up getting to this place where you can bring your forearms to your block. I'm flexible. I've been doing this for years. So for me, it's not such a big deal to come forward and bring my forehead to my block. Don't expect to go there just yet though. So it's a smaller percentage of people who can actually come all the way down to the ground. If you're up here, you're normal. So from here, same thing, we'll do it again, but if you feel like putting one foot in, forward bend, take some time. The other foot, forward bend, take some time at it. So you're still getting that flexibility and that stretch. You're just giving yourself a little bit more of a break. So take some time here. Again, wherever you are is fine as long as your spine is long. Take some big deep breaths and tighten up the tops of the thighs. Okay, so a slightly different variation. When you come back to this video, you may just want to do this one both times, or this one for the whole time. So you're going to put your blocks about halfway on, halfway off the mat. Once you're halfway on, halfway off, so your block is long here, then you're going to put your knees on the blocks and essentially practice something that kind of looks like the splits. Same variation, you're just facing the ground instead of facing the ceiling. So put one knee on a block, the other knee on the block, and then maybe come down to your forearms. Hang out here. If you're really tight, your feet are going to come a little closer together. If you're not so tight, your shins are going to be parallel to the sides of your mat. Hang out here, slightly tighten up your glute muscles, your butt muscles. Breathe deeply. And this is a great posture to just help open up some of those inner thigh area. You got a lot of muscles that all come in at the groin. You've got like 4 muscles that all attach to the same spot on the groin. So it's really important to just figure out where you can go and breathe into this. And if you need to take breaks and come out of it, that's okay too. So you're supposed to hang out here for probably another 5 to 10 breaths. In pretty much every yoga posture, you want to be able to be there for about a minute eventually, which is roughly 20 breaths. So big inhales, big exhales. Again, if you need to take breaks or come out of it, that's okay. Zip up your low belly. And you'll start noticing that even though this is an inner thigh stretch, it's actually kind of a butt strengthener or a butt stretch too. You're going to start feeling some stuff like really deep in the back of your hips as well. on out of it. It's actually pretty hard to get out of it. So you're gonna bring your feet to the center, slowly walk yourself out of it, and then maybe come to a little squat here. Okay, so this was a hip-oriented class. There was a lot of stuff going on with hips. I'm gonna do one inversion since this is, we wanna be able to give you guys some intermediate stuff to do or some shoulder strengthening stuff to do, and then we'll end with a restorative back bend. So the way that we'll do this is you wanna take your mat up against a wall. If you don't think that you're ready right now for anything really intense upside down, you don't actually have to come up against a wall. So this part's the important part. You wanna make sure that your hands are wrapped around the corners of the block like an L shape on either side. And then what you're gonna do with this is, the reason why we have this here, someday you don't have your block, but if you're a little weak up here between the shoulder blades in the rhomboid muscles, what will happen without the block is your hands will slide in, your elbows will slide out, and your forehead will come to the ground. So the block is just there to create a little bit more stability so that you don't slide and bring your forehead to the ground. You want your forehead and your head up off the ground. So a really good way to do this is, if you've ever played like the video game Tetris, think of yourself as like part of a block here. So I'm up against the wall, my legs are there. I roughly want to take my forearms or hands there. So we're gonna try forearm balance and handstand. You can kind of play with both of them. So essentially where I need to be is legs distance away from the wall when I'm upside down. So I'm gonna check that out. My elbows will be roughly where my heels are, or if I'm doing a handstand, my hands will be roughly where my heels are. So we'll do forearm balance first. So elbows are here. And then I'm gonna walk up the wall. So if I don't wanna walk up the wall, this is just, I just lift my hips. So it looks a lot like down dog, but with my forearms on the ground. This is called dolphin. I'm pressing my chest toward my toes, trying to get my upper rhomboid back muscles to engage. And then if I'm here, I'm like, woo, this is a lot of work. Then I might stay here. If you feel like you've got adequate strength in your shoulders, or you wanna play with it a little bit, you're gonna put one foot on the wall, roughly about hip level, and then just push and push and push and see if you can straighten that leg. The other leg will just naturally rise up because it's connected, right? So, but you can keep it dangling if you're terrified. So if you're terrified, that way if you come back down, you can come to that foot. Otherwise, if you're feeling pretty good about this, you'll bring your other foot to the wall. So hanging out here, someday a leg comes up, someday it becomes a full-blown arm balance. I'm not worried about that right now. If you know how to do it, go for it. All right, so the other option is handstand, and I like doing both of these, like with forearm balance first and then trying a little bit of a handstand. So same thing, you're clawing the ground. Drop your chest down between your arms, so your arm bones are nice and secure in the shoulder sockets as you try to bear weight there. And then what we're gonna do is the same thing. So handstand, if you are familiar with handstands, you can certainly do your own, but just make sure your arm bones are in your shoulder sockets here. So same thing, my shoulders stay over my wrists. I take a leg up, roughly at hip level, and then I just try to straighten that leg. The other leg will follow, and here's my walking up the wall handstand. When I'm tired of that, I drop a leg, come on down. Might even want to take a little breath in child's pose. Nice big breaths. Big inhales, big exhales. So keep trying that. It's always good to try this a few different times. Pay attention to your wrists. If your wrists are really bugging you, you probably shouldn't be spending that much time in a big chunk on your wrists. They take a little while to get loosened up and strong. But if you come out of this and you're like, place your thumb on all 9 ligaments of your wrist, press down hard, and then shake it out. And then do the same thing on the other side. Shake it out, and it'll feel a lot better. So that's one option there. If you are pretty good at this, then you can also do this from the other variation here. So same thing, forearm balance here, and then you can kind of kick up. So you can hop lift, and eventually you're gonna come up. Notice my head is not on the ground. Nice deep breaths here, and then eventually I'll balance. So same thing with handstand. And then, now that we're done with that, you can practice that all you want to, but there's gonna be one last thing that we do. So we have a couple options for resting. We did some shoulder stuff and some arm stuff, so you should feel pretty loose up in the shoulders. But I love finishing this particular sequence of postures with blocks under the shoulders so that you can rest in a back bend. If you're not into it and you're tired, you just want to drop your blood pressure, this is a great option. So you can do legs up against the wall, Viparita Kirani. Gonna hang out here, put a block under your hips, boom, hang out here for as long as you want to. Notice your blood pressure dropping. This is a great relaxing posture. It's also fantastic if you suffer from insomnia. So you can just hang out and drop the blood pressure and drop the blood pressure. However, if you would really like to get a little gentle back bend in, then this happens to be my favorite because my tight spot is my upper back. So from here, turn the mat away, this way again. Okay, so from here, you're going to put a block here. The next block is going to be about the length of your neck away, so roughly 3 or 4 inches. And then this part of the block here is going to be in your upper back, right where your shoulder blades stop. So not in your middle back, your upper back. So your upper back is way up here, shoulder blades, tips of your shoulder blades are there, and you're going to find that block and stick it right there in your upper back. Then you're going to find the other block and tuck it under your head, and then take the palms of your hands up toward the sky. Make sure everything's relaxed, wiggle around a little bit. If you feel pinching, you probably need to take that block up a little higher, closer to your upper shoulders. Big inhales, big exhales. And then take about 5 breaths here. Big inhales through the nose. Big exhales out of the mouth. And you can stay here for about 5 minutes, or you can stay here for 20 minutes. It does not matter. So you can hang out for as long as you want. One of the really nice ways of breathing, which often, this is alternate nostril breathing. Often we close one side of the nose, breathe in, and then exhale through the other side of the nose. But you don't have to use your fingers on this. You can inhale through the left side, exhale through the right side. Inhale through the right side, exhale through the left side. And then as you do this, count down. So there are some typical numbers that are used in yoga practice to count from. One is 108. You can count down from there to 0, or you can count down from 54 to 0, or you can count down from 27 to 0. So think of inhale, 54, left nostril. Exhale, 54, right nostril. Inhale, 53, right nostril. Exhale, 53, left nostril. Inhale, 52, left nostril. Exhale, 52, right nostril, and so on. You may notice the breath in the left nostril is a little cooler than the right nostril. And you're welcome to stay here for as long as you want, slowing down the breath. However, if you need a little guidance on how to get out of the posture, if your legs are up against the wall, slide your feet down the wall, push your feet into the wall so your hips will lift up and you can remove the block and roll over onto your side. If you're on these blocks on your back, then you can reach down next to your hips and grab your mat with your hands, press your elbows into the ground, and come on up and come to a comfortable seated posture. And again, keep in mind you can stay right where you are. And then traditionally in the yoga world, for decades we have said namaste, but the old meaning of it has sort of been lost in modern times, and namaste really these days just means hello. So because of that, I am moving towards saying Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which means peace, peace, peace. So take a moment to bring your hands to your forehead for kind thoughts, down to your lips for kind words, and down to your heart center for kind intentions. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And think.